since we have Adam gracing us with our presence today,
come on.
Listen, I got to do it. You're a guest. We are going to talk Heat to start. I haven't heard about the Heat, honestly, in a week since they lost. It's kind of been refreshing to not hear about it a little bit because it was a rough season. But we can already start looking into the offseason. We can start looking specifically at the numbers, what's possible, what's not possible, what free agents are going to be available as they get eliminated, what players aren't going to be available because they're carrying their team into Game 7 against Dallas Mavericks. Things like that, right? So we want to get into the general conversation about the Miami Heat right now. Adam, I guess we'll start with you. What should we expect from a salary cap perspective? The Heat what's feasible? What can actually happen this summer?
Honestly, I think cap space, or the idea of cap space, we lost Marco. The idea of cap space, I think, is really different as opposed to previous years, as opposed to different eras in the NBA. I think cap space is really artificial in terms of the NBA. Every contract can be moved. Every contract can be made. If you don't have max space, you can easily get to max space with one or two simple moves. I think cap space might be the most artificial hindrance from a team being able to go get a guy that they really want. That being said, if a player wants to come to Miami, if two players want to come to Miami, two max guys, the Heat can make it happen. Okay, so I think this idea that the Heat don't even have one max contract slot available is kind of BS to me, because you've seen it time and time again with multiple teams that they can do whatever they really want if that player wants to come. You saw a few years ago the Warriors moved Harrison Barnes to Dallas and they just gave up what? They gave up a second-round pick to move him so that they can get Kevin Durant. You saw double sign-in trades a few years back with both the Celtics and the Hornets and the Nets and the Warriors. So I think the Heat have a lot of avenues. They have a lot of different ways that they can accomplish what they want to do. If they want to make marginal changes, all they have to do is stay as a cap team. But obviously, if you want to make significant changes, I think you need to be an over-the-cap team and have certain options picked up, most notably Goran and Andre Iguodala. You pick up those options, we can have a lot of fun with different things that you can do. Sign-in trades, you're talking Duncan, you're talking Kendrick with a double sign-in trade. Yes, Ben. So I think there's a lot of options that the Heat can have and come to fruition. It just depends on what they're looking to do and who wants to come to the Heat.
So you mentioned Iguodala and Dragic, which is interesting because, one, no one wants to see Goran wear any other jersey in the Miami Heat. I feel like that's just the way that a lot of Heat fans have operated. You got flamed, absolutely cooked for saying that he was pretty much if a team gave you 2 first-round picks in the middle of the season, you would move him. I'm not going to say whether you're right or wrong.
Deservedly so.
I was right. No. It's okay. It's okay to say I was right. It's okay.
Okay. You were right, but
asterisk season.
No. Okay.
The Heat executives were
supposedly laughing at my ideas. I am laughing at their sweep.
Wow, I'm giving yourself so much credit here.
I'm not taking the credit. It wasn't even.
This is Adam right now. This is Adam. This is all he's doing the entire stream. He's just going to.
You could say that with any guy.
Honestly, take your victory lap. You deserve it. You really do, because you were right about virtually everything that happened this entire year.
A lot of people were right about this season.
Listen, I agree. If this was 2K, Adam 100% right.
But Adam,
we don't just trade people.
To ask a question here, so those 2 contracts, if they were to opt in and pick up those options for Iggy and Goran, how much would that be worth in terms of just adding up those 2 contracts?
All right, well, let's pull up the sheet that I have.
Ooh,
I think it's
right here.
Preparation.
So right now, if we're looking at it, we have $19,440,000 team option for Goran and for Andre Iguodala. So how much is that? Quick math.
34
and a half. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that is almost, just picking up those 2 guys, the max slot for certain guys. Certain guys being Dame Lillard's contract next year, Kawhi Leonard would be at 39 million. Who else would be? You can easily get a Kyle Lowry and then some with that money. So there's a lot of different things. Anyone that has a $39 million cap starting next year, which a lot of good players do indeed have, Goran and Iggy, just them by themselves, almost get you there, right? So it's just depending on now, do you have the assets to fill up for the other guys, or can you move a Tyler with those two in order to get another guy? It's just depending on what guy wants to come to Miami and how much they're making.
And I think we should just make it clear for anybody who's not familiar with the trade rules in the NBA, you don't have to be at the number for the player you're trading for. The outgoing salaries have to be within 20% of the incoming salary. So if you're sending out $34.5 million before attaching any assets to it, you can absorb a $39 million contract in return, $40 million, 41 even, somewhere in that range.
Right.
This is like the X factor for the summer, basically, right? Because and me and Adam have been talking about this for a while. I mean, just texting about it like last week, and that's it. Kind of, to me, it's like the hidden flexibility. I feel like we've known about the cap space. That was the talk. I think going into the season, before the Bam extension, before the Giannis extension, it was about the cap space. And Adam turned me here. Like, this is really like low key. They have a lot of flexibility. They have a lot more than I thought they would this summer. I was already in the mindset of when I first started texting Adam about like, they got the cap space. They're going to go after a big player with, let's say most likely Kyle Lowry. And then, they'll have some exception money to play with, and it just won't be a lot because I believe once they get to that cap limit, I'm forgetting the word right now. I'm blanking out. But once they get there, that mid-level exception turns into a smaller one. And so it becomes like half the amount that you can even.
It's actually the opposite.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew I had that wrong.
If you're a tax-paying team, then the amount is less than it is for the Heat. I don't believe they're a tax-paying team. I think their total team salary this past year was somewhere like $1 million over the cap or something. So they're not in the luxury tax, and therefore I believe they have the full mid-level exception, which is worth like $9 million or so to use this summer if they operate over the cap, which, like Adam was saying, is most likely because, again, cap space is artificial. You don't need it. If Kyle Lowry wants to come to the Heat can easily execute a sign and trade there, and you still have the contracts. If you pick up Iggy and Goran's options, you retain the cap holds on all of your free agents who you can then sign and trade. You really don't need the cap space.
Yeah. And it becomes like pretty much outside of the space itself, the priority over those exceptions. And I think that's where my mindset has changed over the past couple of weeks is like, I don't really know what they will be able to do with those exceptions as far as adding significant enough depth and trying to address multiple holes like we all want to. But this right here, like now you've got some real flexibility because you're just telling me that as long as you can work out something with another team, like you can get to that money, still use the cap space and retain guys that you want to retain. And I think that's the move in order for this team to really take the next step because that's what's available to them. But honestly, I'm just really surprised at how much they can do now.
Well, I mean, if you look at it like this, the salary cap is going to be at 112 next year, almost 113. So let's say you keep Jimmy and Bam, Tyler, Precious, and KZ as it's written on the sheet right here. That's $72.6 million plus the 77 for the Ryan Anderson $5 million. How much money do you have? You would then have 77. Just doing quick math. You'd have 34.5, but that's including the Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn cap holds, which is really, really low. And I think that's something we're gonna have to take a look at. So look. You're looking at Kendrick Nunn. I honestly think they might renounce Kendrick Nunn if something ends up happening, just because it opens up a little bit more space. But let's say you can keep Duncan, Kendrick, get another max guy, keep Jimmy and Bam, and use the $9 million exception on a guy like Jay Crowder.
Ooh.
Or Rudy Gay.
Is Jay under contract? Did
Or
he not
Rudy
sign?
Gay. No. Jay is under contract. I mean.
You mean a similar? Right. Got it.
Right.
That would be your prototypical
that would be
Otto Porter.
No, I think he's the player option, right? He's taking his player option.
I can tell Adam's been thinking on this. Let's go. Give us some more scenarios.
So, Adam, I do want to get to one of these comments here from Ali Sibai. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Pretty much what they're saying, is it possible we pick up Iggy and Goran's options before knowing who wants to come?
I wouldn't do that. I would tamper and know who's coming. Look, I'll say this. You're not picking up those options unless you know somebody's coming.
So those are the key. Those two contracts are the key as to know what the plans are really going to be for this offseason. It was I'm trying to get to.
Right. So you can't get up to close to max contract space if you don't pick up Goran and Iggy's options. So if you pick up those options, you'll have the space to go get a Dame, a Kawhi, someone like that, or even Kyle Lowry if Kyle demands that much money.
How about this? Do you believe that if they do pick up those options, it's an indicator, or
yes, yeah?
So there's no chance
they
that they just agree that it's a good enough deal to re-up them on.
If they pick up those options, they have something done, and the deadline to pick up those options is August 1st.
Oh, there we go.
Which is the day before.
So now we wait for August 1st.
Right, which is the day before free agents negotiations start.
So Adam, how much cap space would the Heat have if they chose to not pick up the team options and operate as a room team?
Well, let's just look at it real quick. Just do the math. I mean, you have Jimmy, Bam, Tyler, Precious, KZ, and then you add $9 million for Kendrick and Duncan plus $5 million. That's what? That's the 72 or 77? I don't know which one.
And 77 are the salaries that are on the books. So the 5 guaranteed salaries at the top there, plus Ryan Anderson's 5.2.
So it would be 82. Or am I wrong there?
No, it would be 77 plus the cap holds for both Duncan and Kendrick, which totals 9.4. So you're looking at 86.4.
Right.
Yeah, which puts you at about 27 million in space, I believe.
Right. So 112 minus 86.4, you're at 25.5. And if you believe our reports, Kyle Lowry is looking for about 25 million a year. So for 2 years. So that would give you easily Kyle Lowry, and you could call it a day. You could sign Kyle. You don't have to pick up those options from Goran and Iggy. And then you still have the $9 million exception, and you can pick up and keep Duncan and Kendrick. But
so what we're saying pretty much is the team is going to get better this offseason because of the flexibility.
Yeah, but they have to. I mean,
better.
Yeah.
Like okay, so
when it all boils down, the team has so many paths to get better that it's really hard to see them messing this up again.
Right. I mean, just name a player, and I could give you 3 different avenues in which you want to get them.
Okay,
Chris Paul. Get them through trade.
LeBron.
You want Chris Paul? I mean, look, you. Like I said, salary cap is artificial, so you can trade for a guy that's going to be a free agent. You can sign if somebody opts into their player option, you can go pick him up. Maybe even a guy on his rookie skill deal, you can trade for his hold, and then sign him. It's really rare that we see that. So if, for instance, John Collins, okay, he's got a hold. You could trade for him and sign him so that
why don't more teams do
enter
this?
The market? Because it's
because everybody's got to be.
I mean, we saw Milwaukee do it. I know Greg was talking about it the other day. We saw Milwaukee do it with Malcolm Brogdon, where they didn't pay Malcolm and they traded him. They signed and traded him, and they were gifted with a first-round pick because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So look, there's a lot of different avenues. We could talk Kyle Lowry and Kawhi. There's a way for them to do that. There's a way for them to get Dame and another guy. I mean, you could do a lot.
Kawhi and John Collins. I mean, I'm sorry, Lowry and John Collins.
Okay. So if you want, you said Lowry and John Collins
in that scenario.
Can you just you get the both of them? I mean, you accept the 2 team options and you sign and trade them to Atlanta. Is that what it is?
Right. So what you could do is you can pick up the options on
Goran and Andre.
You pick up the options on Goran and Andre, flip them, to Toronto. You get them back. Well, that would be a waste of your cap space if you do that, or the options, because then that's like 13 million that you would have left unused. And then there's the other thing. That's the reason why I didn't really like the Myers Leonard deal, because I would have rather they kept Myers for this flexibility this summer. Like as bad as it sounds, I would have kept him, and I was fine with him being paid $10 million because it doesn't have any indication on what their cap space was going to be last summer. They could have given him $20 million. It's no different. Okay, so that's kind of why I was against the Trevor Ariza deal, because that team option that they have going forward is so important, and I think a lot of teams are going to adopt that in the future. So with John Collins, go ahead.
No. I was going to praise Andy Ellisberg, but I'll wait.
It seems like they still have enough, though. I get what you're saying. I do. I know I always go against you when you say that because I love the Ariza, but
they do have enough. But you could be talking
to add an impact player. They still have outside of the cap space. I'm saying I think it seems like they still have enough.
Right.
They just don't have as much
they
as the
do.
Knicks.
It just sucks because you got to get Goran out of here. Like that's the before
Right,
maybe you had the option
thing.
of Andre and Myers.
Yeah. So do you go sentimental? Fair. Are you gonna be sentimental this summer and you're gonna keep Goran? I mean, the options that they have to weigh is: do you pick up his option in order to get an incremental increase of value in that position, or do you keep Goran at a value contract this summer? Let's say the biennial, which is $3 million. You could keep Goran for that in price, and he's going to outplay that contract. Mm-hmm. If you trade him away and he gets bought out and he ends up going to Dallas, you can't sign Goran for another year.
Right.
So you have to weigh that. Is the player that you're going to get if you pick up Goran's option worth it enough to not have Goran come back at a good deal next year?
It's got to be, right? Because like, why else would you be trading for such a big contract if it's not somebody you believe in to be a part of the core? I feel like, or at least a package of guys that you believe in to be a part of an upgrade there to your core.
Right.
I mean, this is good stuff, though. Like, I know we've gone deep into the cap stuff.
Cap
I think
101. Cap
this is
101.
good stuff for Heat fans. Like you should be excited.
It is.
You should be excited.
We can go deeper. We can go deeper. We haven't even talked about the dead spot cap holds and how that factors into the equation. But in reality, like Adam's saying, they have a ton of avenues, whether they choose to operate over or under the cap, to improve the team. With that said, Adam, do you think, if you had to guess, is it more likely that they operate over the cap or under the cap?
Over the cap, but not in the way that you think. I don't think they pick up the options because I don't think somebody will be there for them. Wow. I think they end up over the cap by keeping Duncan and then signing a Kyle Lowry type. So if I were to guess what they end up doing this summer, it's they sign Duncan. I'm going to just throw a number out, $18 million. They let Kendrick go, just walk away. They signed Kyle Lowry to 25 for 2 years. And
no options.
They signed somebody with $9 million. How about 3 years, $25 million each year, third year is a team option.
Interesting. So you're saying they get that and then they have the mid-level and you use that on a guy like, say, Rudy Gay.
Right.
Okay. Interesting.
Ooh.
Well, we do have this donation. I think I'm lagging out really quick. Ariel, if you want to get this one from Michael Regalado.
You're good. I'll get it. Michael Regalado, thank you for the $4.99 dono. He says, if Lillard becomes available, then we trade the whole house besides Jimmy for him and try to bring in Kawhi. What I would say to that is that's one of the only scenarios. Now, look, the Heat aren't trading Bam. I don't know anything for a fact, but if I had to bet my life on it, they're not trading Bam. I think that maybe would be one of the only scenarios where maybe they could talk themselves into putting him on the table where you're getting a superstar and then another star comes with him. Otherwise, though, if it's just a deal for Dame and the price tag is Bam and you don't have a commitment from anybody else, I have a hard time seeing them doing something like that.
So then how do you bring in Kyle Lowry and Kawhi if an option were to exist? Again, we're not saying – like I think Kawhi leaving is maybe at a 10% chance right now.
You need the Clips to get swept in round 1.
Round
Or
two.
Round two.
Right.
You need to get embarrassed right now.
Yeah.
You think there's any chance of that?
No.
I do think there's a chance. We can get into
Utah,
that
like
later,
just
though.
wiping them out and embarrassing them.
Hey,
I don't think that's likely,
I mean,
but
it would be pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie to you.
so how do you do it? How do you do a Kyle Lowry and Kawhi deal?
I
you
know how.
flip Bam to a team with cap space and a lot of picks, maybe a team that already owns one of your picks. You recoup a whole bunch of draft capital, and then you flip some of that in a sign and trade for Kawhi, and then you're under the cap, and then ideally you can sign Kyle Lowry, or you use the other draft capital that you still have to acquire Kyle Lowry in a sign and trade as well.
So it's really complicated.
Why can't you just hold on? I'm confused. Why can't you just like the same thing that we've been talking about? You can't get the guys to opt in and trade them over there to the Clip. Obviously, they got to agree to that. I'm
Right.
I'm not even talking about that part, but like in theory, can't you just get the guys? I mean, you opt in to Andre and Goran, trade them over for whichever one makes sense. I guess Kawhi to match the money, and then you sign Lowry into cap space. You can't do something like that.
I mean, like what you
Why do we got to
do
trade
is-
Bam? That's what I'm asking.
The only way to
You wouldn't
not
have the
trade
space.
Bam, yeah, the only way to not trade Bam would be if you sign and trade Duncan. You do doubles. Well, no, there's no way because there's two different things that need to happen, right? If you were allowed to do 2 sign and trades in one summer and there was no such thing as a luxury cap, then you can do it. So
The hard cap.
hypothetically, the only way to do that would be you pick up the 2 options on Duncan or not on Duncan on Goran and Iggy. You trade them to the Clippers and you trade, let's say, Tyler to make that work. So now you have Kawhi, and then you do a double sign and trade where you trade Duncan to the Raptors and you get back Kyle Lowry. Now that would put you over the hard cap, or at 100.
It would
I think it's 130.
It
Right,
triggers
it's
the hard cap.
136 million. Right. So it's impossible. You have to trade if you want to bring in 2 new big pieces. You have to trade Bam or Jimmy.
Or tell one of those 2 new pieces to fuck off, and that's the second thing I'm doing. I love Kyle Lowry, but if you're talking about Kawhi or him or Bam,
Yeah.
I know who I'm kicking out. That's all I got to say.
Well, the
Absolutely.
scenario, no, you're right in a vacuum, but I think the scenario that we're putting on the table here is one where they come as a package deal. And so the only way to really make that happen is you probably have to move Bam.
Which I think is the
Well-
only way that they come.